So if you raise chickens, especially in the South, especially in the summer, you have got to have a reliable water source. You can't take chances that you're going to run out of water, that a bowl is going to go dry, or a can you set out or something like that. So I have found, and I have had this type of water for a dozen years probably, I have found that this is the best, easiest, trouble-free watering system, chicken watering system I've ever had. And I've raised chickens for 40 years probably. It's called the Little Giant, and this is a brand new one. I bought a new one, I've got a spare, but this is the older one that's on duty right now. And what it does is just keep a set amount of water in there, and you set the amount of water you want. And it's got a little nut on the bottom, I'll show you in just a minute, and it just hangs from a hose. Now, you need to understand, first of all, that it doesn't accept just a typical water hose, which is a 3/4 inch hose bib. This is just a regular, like the end of a water hose. That is that black thing right there. So what I had to do is step down to a 1/2 inch with PVC. It comes off. I'll show you how it works. First of all, I'm gonna clean this one while we're here. This one's been in service for a while, and I could use soap or something, but I won't. Just clean it. The little girls, they stick their beaks in it, and their old beaks are dirty. You know, they've been pecking around, so there's dirt on their beaks and stuff. And so they get the water dirty. They do that with any kind of water that you use. And this one has faded in the sun a little bit, but basically that's it right there. It's got a nut on this. Right there at the very end of that is a nut. You adjust those, or 2 nuts actually, and you adjust them up and down, and that will give you the amount of water you want. These 2 little bevel places right there, cutouts, that goes down in there. The little collar goes on it. It fills up. And I don't particularly want mine to fill up all the way. It's not necessary. As soon as they drink some out of it, it replenishes itself. It's got a Schrader valve in it, which is the same kind of a valve that's on your tire, that you air up your tire with. And that Schrader valve, depending on where you set those nuts I showed you, that Schrader valve will set the amount of water in it. Right now I'm about 1/2 inch from the lip of it. And I can pour it out, undo it, pour it out, go back in. And it takes just a few seconds to fill up. And it's something that you can just, as you're walking by at a glance, you can see it and know that it's working. If you've got city water, then you know that your water supply is constant. I've got well water, so I always keep a backup going. I'll keep a pot out in the yard with some water in it, and I'll keep an eye on it and this. If I go to, if I'm going away for the weekend or something like that, I don't know whether perhaps the power would shut off and my well would stop running, or maybe the, quiet down girls. Or maybe, you know, there was a problem with the well. Maybe some fire ants got into the well controls, or for whatever reason, the well stopped, and then my girls would be out of water, and they could absolutely die in the summer real quick. First day, probably. So in the summertime, especially in the summertime, but anytime I leave for a few days, I put in backup systems just in case my water supply dries up. This really never fails. Sometimes it will, over the months, it will start getting fuller and sometimes start overrunning, just dripping over a little bit. And if so, just unscrew it, adjust those nuts on the bottom, put it back on, and just watch it. It'll come up and just say, you know, I want it right there, I want it lower, higher, wherever you want it. This is about where I keep it most of the time, about a 1/2 inch from the lip. I've had several of these over the years, but they will last for several years. I mean, I've had these for 12, 15 years, and I think this is maybe the 4th one to buy, something like that. So 3 or 4 years out of one easily. I think they're about 30 bucks, but I'll look and I'll put a link to it below for you to check it out. But this is my favorite water. And then I've got a 5-gallon water, yeah. And then I've got a 5-gallon water that I fill up. In the summertime, I just make sure they've got more than one water source. And so in the summertime, I've got, especially if I go somewhere, I give them extra water. And I'll show you the 5-gallon water at a different time because I need to clean it out, and I want to show you how to clean it out. But anyway, this is it's called a Little Giant. That's a new one. That's the one that's been out in the sun, faded just a little bit, but still perfect. Not having any problems. Little Giant poultry water, I believe it's called. I will put a link below. If you raise chickens, shh, yeah. Now, they may need to come in. I shut the door. They may need to come in and lay an egg. I may be holding up production here. So, but if you raise chickens, get a reliable waterer. I've seen people make them out of 5-gallon buckets and put nipples and stuff. And I'm not saying that won't work. I just want something that's reliable, because in the South, in the summer, and it's 95, 100 degrees, you can't play around. You've got to have something here that is absolutely reliable. So this is it for me. I've had them for years. I vouch for them. And it's called the Little Giant, and I will put a link to it below. So check it out below. So if you raise chickens, or if you're gonna raise chickens, this is something I highly recommend. One of my favorite things. All right, we're gone.